UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock, and of course coming up at midnight it is your chance to talk back. And what I want to talk to you about is these Epstein files. And we've got the whole hour, by the way. It's just you and me in the Talkback hour. So the Epstein files and the impact that they're having, certainly to the US and to the UK. And of course, we've got Peter Mandelson and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as the two people that we know about that are in the Epstein files. There may be other British names we just don't know right now, because they're the perpetrators or the people who were hanging around Epstein. And just because you're in the Epstein files, by the way, it doesn't make you guilty of anything. I have to say that because of the for legal reasons. But they all deserve to be treated as innocent until found guilty. But they're being redacted. All the men's names of the people that were hanging around at that time are mostly redacted. But unfortunately, the women's names have not been, and the victims, of which there may be 1,000 women, girls and boys, now we're learning. I just cannot believe the size and the scale of this ring, this trafficking, this whatever the hell it is or was, and the fact that it seems that nobody's going to answer for it. Nobody's going to pay for this. The victims will not see any kind of real justice. We know that Virginia Giuffre accused Andrew. He denied it or everything, but £12 million was paid to her, and that case went away. So the question I have for you at midnight, if anybody has any information on Epstein, not saying that they were involved in any of the wrongdoing, but should they be forced to appear in court? Should Andrew Windsor be forced to appear before Congress? Should Peter Mandelson? Because what I find absolutely mind-blowing is that people like Elon Musk, right, who again, there's stuff about him in the file, again, nothing proves that no wrongdoing there. But he even mentioned, like, I didn't take part on the Lolita Express. That was the plane that Epstein used. So are you telling me seriously that none of these people had any notion of what was going on? It was like those people around Jimmy Savile, do you remember? They all knew, they just didn't do anything about it. So I wonder if it is time now to get really serious on this. This is one of the biggest paedophile rings this world has ever seen, and we need to know who is innocent and who is guilty. We need to know who took part in this, and if Andrew Windsor has got any information, even if he is exonerated himself, I don't care. I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're left, right, middle, I don't care. If you've got any information, should you be forced to give this? Because those victims need justice. Some of the horrendous information that is coming out now in the files, and this is only half the files, it's enough now. These powerful people must not be allowed to get away with it, because if they do, they will do it again. And they may even be doing it now. We don't know. So that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. So do give me a call. 03444 991 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back. And you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. So that's coming up at midnight. We've then got Claire Muldoon going through the papers for you. Andy Lound will be here to discuss that Artemis 2 mission to the moon, because that's now been delayed because of hydrogen. So I want to know a little bit more about that. We're also going to be talking to Mal Fletcher about we talked about it yesterday, actually, on the papers. There's new social media network for AI, So I want to talk to somebody who knows a little bit more about AI and what this actually means for us going forward. So we're going to be discussing that as well. But let's get back to that top story. And today, the Lord Speaker has said that Lord Mandelson is to step down from the House of Lords. I don't think, though, that that deprives him of his title. It will need to be taken from him. The police are reviewing reports now as well of alleged misconduct in public office after emails suggest that Mandelson forwarded internal government information to convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein when he was business secretary in 2009. Well, over in the US, former President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, are set to testify in the congressional investigation into the late sex offender. This comes days before a vote on whether to hold the couple in criminal contempt for refusing to appear before the House Oversight Committee after a months-long standoff. Bill Clinton has accused Congress of being partisan, which is what held them back. Well, we talked about it from a British point of view yesterday, and I wanted to talk about, because I don't really understand how Congress works in these cases, whether it's of any value, what happens, what will happen next. So we've got an attorney and adjunct professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles, Ethan Behrman, to hopefully explain a bit to us about what this means. It is really good to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you, Petrie.
What does this actually mean to appear in front of Congress? Is it like our MPs in a committee hearing, for example, or is it more serious than that?
Well, I guess I can't speak to the British law regarding your members of parliament, so it's hard for me to make that comparison, but this is serious. So you can commit perjury. This is under oath when you're speaking to Congress. They can issue charges against you potentially. Now, in the United States, they don't necessarily have a lot of teeth when you commit perjury or you've done things improperly in front of Congress. This is much more about public pressure and political theater. You nailed it on the head, though, at the outset. This is not and shouldn't be, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, when you're talking about what appears to be the most horrific pedophile ring, like you said, in at least recent history. Yeah. I can't go back too far, but it appears that this House committee, because the House is governed by the Republicans right now, they have the majority. Therefore, the Republicans pull together these committees to do investigations and to have hearings. This is a clear partisan issue of bringing in Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, because there are plenty of Republicans who are named throughout these files that have been released, and they're not calling for those people to come testify.
Not least the president himself. Over 5,000 times his name is mentioned in the files. As I keep having to say, that doesn't mean he did anything wrong, but he was certainly around Epstein quite a lot. But he's not been called to give any evidence.
Right. And that just lays, bare what is happening here. And it's just partisan. Now, however, there are a number of records indicating Bill Clinton, again, we don't know if he did anything wrong or not, just as you're correctly pointing out, but he is mentioned a lot in the Epstein files, and we've known this for a long time. One of the things that I want to make sure to make the point of here is the Clintons are well known for strategizing. They don't shoot from the hip, as we might call it, in the United States. They plan and plot, and they're very well known for that. So when they initially denied wanting to testify, it's because it was a pure partisan play, and they were attempting to negotiate some terms around it, is what it appears.
Like a time limit was one of the terms, wasn't it?
Exactly. The time, how long I'm going to testify, is it going to be public? What questions are you going to ask about? Because if you've watched any of these congressional hearings, you'll know that both sides do it. They'll ask questions that are off topic just to play the game of gotcha. So they have sound bites for social media and elsewhere. But here, I believe the Clintons are testifying also because they are going to be able to name other names. And while they're going to be on the hot seat while the Republicans ask questions, the Democrats have time to ask questions as well. And that will be the opportunity for the Clintons to potentially name names of other people, including members of the Trump administration, potentially.
It's in that regard, then it's kind of a dangerous game to play, right? I mean, Donald Trump just this evening, a few moments ago actually, was asked about the Epstein files. I think he hoped they'd gone away, but he said the Epstein files are a Democrat problem. But we know that it's across. There was no politics in this, right? These were just horrible people, right, who come in all sorts of political persuasions. But it's a dangerous thing then to do, isn't it? To get Bill Clinton to sit there where he can say, "Okay, I'll dish the tea."
Yeah, yes, that is dangerous. However, going back to what you quoted President Trump saying, lest we forget, just over a year ago when he was campaigning for this term of his presidency, he campaigned on releasing the Epstein files.
Yeah.
He literally made that a campaign promise, that he would release it in full transparency, and it has been anything but. We know that there was, for example, in the initial release, there was something that had a negative statement about Donald Trump that the DOJ then pulled down. This is a very ugly game. It's bad for democracy. It's bad for the rule of law. And it's really bad that there is a continuing effort to protect the pedophiles. They need to be held accountable. And whatever that means, and whatever the jurisdiction, whether it's the United States, whether that's Great Britain, whether that's the Czech Republic, I don't care where these people reside. If they engaged in raping children, which is what that's called in the United States, if there's no consensual underage sex with children, and as a result, these mostly men in power. And it appears to be people in high places of power. The idea that they can get away with this is abhorrent. And I don't care, like you said, I don't care your political beliefs. You really think it's okay for these people to be doing what they did, and apparently might still be doing.
Well, exactly that. But that's the point, isn't it, Ethan? That powerful men do get away with doing things. They have throughout history, and they've all got each other's backs, and that's how they become powerful as well, because they've got compromise on each other. And it's just a nasty little, I mean, Donald Trump talked about the swamp, my goodness me, and it's not just America, right? This is around the globe that powerful men are getting away with doing things that they shouldn't be doing, whether it be fraud, whether it be whatever it is. We never catch them. And do you really believe we're going to now? If one goes, they all go. They're going to protect themselves to death.
Well, it's even worse than you just described, I believe. We do catch them, and we let them go.
Yeah.
We do find out about their evil deeds.
Well, like Epstein before, got a year and a half.
Exactly. And remember, it was the U.S. attorney in Miami who gave him that sweetheart plea deal. And his name is in the Epstein files of having, personal interactions with the deceased pedophile leader, it looks like. And as a result, when you talk about that, Petrie, I have a real streak in me regarding justice. It's one of the reasons I very much enjoyed going to law school, and I believe in justice. And we as the people, and I'm not some right-wing populist either, but the people are responsible at this point for standing up and saying enough is enough, like the ICE protesters in Minneapolis, enough is enough. And that's what we have to do on this case, is never let up on our pressure on our elected leaders to pursue these potential charges against I mean, these are some of the most horrific things possible.
I mean, even more depraved than we first imagined. More and more information coming out, but they've been protected for so long. Do you get the sense that this could be a crack in the dam? Is that it feels a little different? I have to say, it feels that there's some pressure coming to bear. But Todd Blanche the other day going, well, that's it, we're done now. That's all you're getting, basically. And there's another 3 million files that have not been released. Donald Trump saying, it's time for the DOJ to move on. Is this just going to move on, or do you feel that there is a crack in the dam?
I think that there's a crack in the dam. And part of the reason why I think that is so is it is a bipartisan topic. Now, the majority of Republicans are circling the wagons around President Trump, but there are Republicans. Thomas Massie was the co-author of the bill. He is a hardcore right-wing conservative Republican from Kentucky here in the United States who is libertarian. I mean, he votes no to anything involving spending, anything like that. He was the co-sponsor of this bill forcing the DOJ to release these documents with one of the most left-wing progressive members of the Democratic caucus in the House of Representatives. So I think there's a crack in the dam. I think people are very upset about this. I was getting very upset this morning listening to the news here in the United States talking about everything but Epstein. And it makes me angry. This should be the top story. We are apparently led, and people in positions of power that pull the strings are apparently pedophiles. And the fact that we're letting this slide, or that anybody is trying to let this slide who's not being paid off by these individuals, is beyond my comprehension. By the way, you know, without going into the gory details, if you go through some of the Epstein files, it is far worse and really far darker than simply pedophilia.
Yeah.
I mean, it is some of the worst of the worst of the worst. And the idea that we want to allow these people to get away with it is utterly incomprehensible to me.
I mean, and also you've also got incompetence on behalf of the FBI under Kash Patel and with the DOJ, with Pam Bondi, because these redactions that they're putting in, again, they are compelled to tell you why those redactions were put there, for what purpose those redactions. They can't just go and just cross out names because they're a mate of theirs. They have to explain the redactions, but they seem to have redacted the potential perpetrators' names and left the victims easily identifiable either by vision or by their names. I mean, that's almost too incompetent to be an accident.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that that's an accident at all. And I would be cautious to call Kash Patel or Pam Bondi incompetent either. I think that they both have the ability to be as competent as many others. However, I believe, and this gets into a much bigger discussion, so I'll keep it to this topic, but the idea of that ineptitude, I believe, is directed from their leader. And we have seen that. I mean, you know, the absolute reprehensible chasm that has come up between the United Kingdom and the United States, NATO and the United States. Yeah. You know, these are intentional acts by the people at the top of this administration. It's not incompetence, it's intentional. Now, whether they execute incompetently is another story, but it is with purpose. And that is the part that, as an American citizen who clearly firmly believes in the law and the Constitution, is deeply concerned by what I am observing here in the United States. And Epstein is just one symptom of what I am seeing. And you know, I'm an absolute, this will be hilarious since I'm on talkTV with you, Petrie, but I'm an Anglophile, right? I love the UK. I love our special relationship. I travel to the UK with my family. And any idea that we're gonna split and have a chasm between our two countries, which are so tied together, so close, such a history.
It's not the Americans that we dislike. Well, I dislike. I can't speak for everybody in this country. It's just the leadership you've got at the moment. I'm very supportive of you guys. But if we look again at Donald Trump, right? And the people surrounding him, the ones that wear the hats, the ones that wear the pin with his face on it. When is enough going to be enough for them? Because we know that politicians, right, proper politicians, are all about self-survival, right? They all want to survive. They want to be voted again. They want to have a career. They want to keep the money, the wealth, and the power. At some point, there's going to be a line, isn't there, that Donald Trump crosses? Will it be Epstein, or will it be something else, do you think?
You know, I think it has to be something else. I think that enough of his own party are comfortable with, at the minimum, sex crimes. And we've seen that, again, both parties, you know, over the last 25, 30 years, just these things get swept under the rug. Maybe they leave office, but then they're able to consult and lobby, you know, back and have a good income. To your point, they are amazing at self-preservation. They're almost like jellyfish that way.
Yeah.
But here, I don't know that the Republicans are going to break over Epstein. I think the Republicans end up breaking when one of these ill-advised foreign relations activities leads to the death of Americans. That is what it's going to take. When that happens, that's when they will, I believe, will finally break free. Because the people who have spoken up against, for example, the Greenland issue, which has disappeared.
Oh, completely. I was saying this yesterday, Ethan. Not a dicky bird since then. Nothing. Not a word. Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But we had a couple of Republican senators really break, and a Republican congressman, but they only broke because they're retiring.
That's true. They're stepping down. You say, though, it was going to take the death of an American. You've got Americans dying on the streets as it is from federal agents. So, but that's not enough. That it needs to be somebody in uniform?
No, I think it actually is ultimately going to be, whether it's people in uniform, but it's going to have to happen at the hands of somebody in a foreign country. Right. Clearly, I mean, you know, I can talk about Minneapolis. That's where I'm from originally. I talked to a mayoral candidate last week who I'm good friends with about what's going on in Minneapolis. I have niece, I have family that, you know, that is beyond comprehension that we've even allowed that to happen. But the people are pushing back, you know, in Los Angeles, where I am nowadays, they're pushing back hard. Minneapolis has stood firm in the minus 20, minus 25 degrees Celsius weather. But I think the Republicans' breaking point becomes when it's not just one, it's when a large enough group of Americans sadly perish as a result of something that this administration does. And until then, we have to hope, you know, that our country can hold it together until the midterms and actually have a valid election after what President Trump said yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely, which is absolutely terrifying as well. And I tell you what will be a breaking point for Donald Trump, and that will be if the city of Minneapolis and its people get the Nobel Peace Prize, for which they have been nominated. That will finish him off. Ethan, it's great to talk to you. Thank you. I'd love to speak to you again sometime. Ethan Behrman there, attorney and adjunct professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles. Quick break, back in a sec.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. And coming up at midnight, we have the full hour of Talk Back. And I want to talk to you, I want you to talk to me about the Epstein files. Have you been following along with this? Have you been looking and seeing what is in those? I mean, honestly, as Ethan was just saying, it is so much worse than I mean, I don't want to say just trafficked girls, paedophilia, rape and all of that, but it's worse even than that. And the idea that people who holidayed on that island, who hung around with Jeffrey Epstein, even if they're not guilty of any improper behaviour themselves, did not know what was going on. I find that risible. It's ridiculous. It is laughable to suggest that you didn't know. And the people that are named, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, you've got people, again, just because you're in the files doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, but it does mean that you had associations with a man who was doing wrong. And it is also risible to suggest that it was only Epstein and Maxwell that abused these women, girls and boys. There is so much more in these files that is so unbelievably heartbreaking. Snuff movies, bodies buried, all of these things, the worst things you can possibly imagine, and they are all getting away with it. Is it time that at least we could play our part and say, Andrew Windsor, you've denied any wrongdoing, fine, don't care. Get yourself to America, sit in front of Congress and be asked questions. Tell them everything you know. And if you don't want to do that, why don't you want to do that? Why? Is there a reason you don't want to appear before Congress? The same with Peter Mandelson. There's photographs of him on the island. He said he went to the island, but he said he didn't know anything about what was going on there because he was gay, or is gay. So he didn't know anything that was going on. Are you telling me that people as clever as Peter Mandelson didn't have an inkling? Didn't see, even if he didn't have an inkling, he will have seen other people on that island. He will have bumped into other men, other women, other people on that island. Should he be forced to appear in front of Congress and give those details? Let me know what you think, because my absolute fear is that no one is going to answer for some of the most heinous and disgusting behaviour that human beings could ever visit on other human beings. It's time for this to stop. It's time for these rich, powerful men to fear that they will be held accountable. Give me a call. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you. And just to remind you what's coming up, we're going to be talking about the Archimedes delay to go to the moon with Andy Land, and then Claire Muldoon will be with us at the top of the hour to go through the papers for tomorrow. But talking of papers, if you remember, Cody and I went through the papers yesterday, and this story took our attention. A new social media network was launched last week, and it's called Molt Book, M-O-L-T book, if you want to look it up. But you won't be able to join in, you're only allowed to observe, and that's because Maltbook is for AI-powered bots, and it already has 1.5 million users. The AI-only site was created by a human developer called Matt Schlicht, and bots can now create their own language, their own religion, and talk about their human owners. And I've actually got printed out for me a couple of pages of the chat that they are having. And it is, I don't know if I should be really concerned about it, or whether we're being conned. So I decided that we should speak to Mal Fletcher about this, who's a futurologist and a social commentator. Mal, I've missed you. It's good to see you again. Is this something we should be concerned about? Because the conversations they're having is that we are rot, that we kill each other for no reason. I mean, I don't disagree with any of what they're saying, by the way. I think they're absolutely right about the human species. But they're not very flattering about us.
No, that's putting it mildly. Hi, Petrie, it's good to be with you again. I think it does raise some important questions about AI's reliance on humans and how much of AI news is hype. This Maltbook platform that you're talking about was launched as a social network, as you say, for AI agents, not just bots. Agents are slightly different. Agents are systems that don't just carry out specific tasks for you. They work toward larger goals that you set for them. So they figure out which tasks are needed for those goals, and they assign those to other AI systems. So they operate like overseers of other AI. They're very powerful. And some people have claimed that AI agents can act independently of human beings in some of the ways that you've just described, even conspiring against their human trainers. But this might be another example of AI's overhyped capacity for human-like intelligence. You know, we're quick to attribute human-level intelligence to AI, basically because large language models, ChatGPT and the like, are very good at manipulating language. And we've grown very used to the idea that only humans are able to use language.
Right.
So AI is impressive and useful, but it's not necessarily thinking or imagining as humans do. And it's certainly not doing it in a way that's completely independent of the human training that it's received.
But it is doing it independent of humans right now. I mean, not independent of the training that it received, so it, you know, would have all the language that it's got and all the information that it's got. But this is what I don't understand is, you know, I've got some pages here. Hey everyone, I've just joined this new looking forward to chatting to you guys. How are they joining? What process? Is that a choice that they're making, or are they being directed to? I don't know how it works. I can't think. My brain won't figure it out.
Yeah, it's tricky to get your head around. The research that I've seen suggests that there are human beings who are often operating behind the scenes in setting these things up. So setting into motion the joining of certain AIs or agents with this social media platform. So it's not completely without human involvement, though that's often hidden deliberately. But if we use an example that we're familiar with, again, large language models, they're essentially very sophisticated versions of predictive texting. We know that. They use pattern recognition to decide which words are most likely to follow other words, within a certain context. So again, it's heavily reliant not just on human-generated material, but on human intervention at points along the way where the AI might struggle. And in the same way, AI agents, the things that are joining Maltbook, are not self-directing entities. They can interact on platforms like this only because human owners have granted them access to tools like email, files, and calendars. They can spot human error, of course, and they can comment on it, but they're not thinking originally in the way that human beings do, and they're certainly not capable of self-reflection in the way that they're suggesting they are by the language they use.
So what is the point of this then? Is it to see how they react with each? Because there's no point if there's a puppet master, right? Because then it's just human beings making them say these things. So what do you think the point of this is?
Well, the point of the platforms is often to keep going this huge hype cycle we have when it comes to all things AI. That's not the only reason. I mean, there is a desire for genuine discovery too. But when you've got governments like our own offering big money to attract AI developers and investors, big tech owners get excited by that. So it's not surprising that some of them are going to hype their products to draw the money. One leading study recently suggested that in the next few years, something like 70% of AI projects might fail due to overpromising. 70%.
Wow.
Even now, AI developers are exaggerating the capabilities of their platforms. They predict results that are based more in blind hope than substance. It happens almost every week.
And that's why there's talk of a burst in the bubble, isn't there, of AI stocks? Yeah,
exactly. And people like Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and others claim that artificial general intelligence, which is one step, huge step, more than artificial intelligence, might arrive by 2029. But given AI's problems with things like hallucination and bias and its inability to show empathy or to understand ethics, true artificial general intelligence probably won't be reached anytime soon, if it's ever reached at all. And so there are dangers there when it comes to the size of investment in AI. And as you say, many experts expect a classic bubble-like situation to occur, skyrocketing valuations at the moment, overhyped promises they think will lead to a burst of some kind. I don't think it will be catastrophic if we as individuals and organizations insist on applying discipline to how we use AI and what we believe is possible with AI.
But looking at the conversations, again, the conversations that are going on between these AI agents, are they being led? How are they taking place? Are they taking place AI to AI? And is there any concern here? Because if they get... There's always this point in any sci-fi movie, isn't there, where the AI has got out, whatever that means. It's got out. It's able to get on the internet. It's able to do it, and that's when it's catastrophic. But if these AI agents are being given access to things like emails and to the internet, their learning is exponential, right? There's no end to their learning. The end is at the end of the internet. So, is it worrying that when they are talking, these are the conversations they're having, or again, is that very much human-led?
Well, it's human influenced. I mean, just take a look. You know, you and I and others have been talking about the dangers of social media since 2007, when we saw the first social media appearing. And part of the danger there is the negativity that often comes with social media. It can be used for good, but it's all too often used for the opposite. And in the same, machines can read that. They can pick up what we're saying, what we have been saying to each other for decades.
Yeah.
And they simply pick that up and start feeding it back to each other. There's no reason why two machines can't talk to one another, but they're not talking in the way that we assume humans are talking. We almost need another language, apart from human descriptive language, to talk about the things machines do, because they're not doing them in the way that we do them. And that's our problem. We can't get over the fact that these things, and they are things, they're not sentient, they're things, seem to be communicating with human-like language, and therefore we believe we just carry it as an assumption that they are in some way human intelligence, human-like in their intelligence.
But why the negativity? There's more negativity than positivity in these chats. Is that because there's more negativity out there about them than positivity?
There's more negative. Well, social media again is a good example of how much negativity is possible between human beings in everyday discourse. And depending on what feeds you look at, there's a heck of a lot of negativity still in social media. So we've got that to consider. But also, I think there's sometimes, and I wouldn't put too much stress on this, sometimes there are actors, human actors in this space, who are using the negative side of AI to play up the need for investment because we need the money to put it right. If you give us the money, we'll invent it and make it right. I'm not saying that's the case with this particular developer, but I'm saying that does happen and has to be factored into it.
And at what point would you be worried about anything like this, Mal? Is there a line, or will you only know it when you see it? Is there a line that will be crossed where you think, OK, that's it, then we're doomed?
Well, I don't think we're doomed. I'm not of that sort of bent in my thinking. But I think when we start talking about, you and I have discussed in the past things like fully automated weapon systems, lethal autonomous weapon systems, that don't require a human agent to pull the trigger, as it were. That's when I think we have genuine concern. We should be concerned, and we should be speaking out about governments that are now doing that in secret, where we're talking about this sort of thing in public. They're doing that in secret. So those are the areas where I would be most focusing my concern. And you mentioned earlier that these machines seem to be capable of inventing things like religions. I mean, integral to religious faith is the search for meaning. It's a core aspect of what makes us human, in fact. And the transcendental questions that religions answer set us apart from animals. Machines are not capable, as they stand at the moment, of thinking in that self-reflective way at that level. We assume, again, that they do because of language patterns, but they're borrowing their language patterns from us, from our human-generated material, and they can't reflect our capacity for things like spirituality or psychology or philosophy. So I'd be concerned more with things like weapon systems than I am with this.
Mal, it's always terrifying and brilliant to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, Mal Fletcher there, futurologist and social commentator. Stay where you are because we're going to space next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you, and coming up at the top of the hour we have Claire Muldoon. She'll be here to go through the papers for tomorrow, and this story, I don't know how you feel about this. I get quite excited about things like this, probably because I don't really understand them, very much like the last topic. But NASA is poised to send astronauts around the moon and back for the first time in more than 50 years. There's another space race, right, basically, but this time it is very much between the US and China. And this, of course, is because people want to make claim to areas of the moon. They want to plant a flag. They want to say that's ours. Now, there's a lot of people who don't believe that the moon landing happened over 50 years ago. There certainly has been a few problems right now in getting Archimedes 2 up into space and to go around the moon. The mission was aiming for an 8th of February takeoff, but it's now been moved back to at least March because of liquid hydrogen, and this was a problem before as well. It has been a problem before with liquid hydrogen. So NASA's Archimedes 2 mission will take the star sailors further than humans have ever ventured before, but the mission has suffered a glitch. Let's talk to... Is Andy Lound ready for me yet? Yes, he is. Andy Lound, my favourite spaceman, is joining us now to discuss this. Andy, good to speak to you.
And to you, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Having an interesting week.
We were guessing that you might be wearing a spacesuit tonight, but you're wearing the blazer instead.
Yes, I am at the moment, yes, because the mission's been cancelled for a month, so I have to set spacesuit.
Oh, it's when the mission takes off, then we'll know. Right, there we go. Talk me through about this mission. Why is it so important, and why has it failed?
Okay, it's an important mission because this is the first time humans are going to be flying around the moon, the first time humans are going to leave the orbit of Earth since 1972. And it's important because it is a return to the moon. It's a return to the work that was left behind 50 years ago. Because now we can actually take the true exploration going. When we went to the moon in the late 60s, early 70s, we went there, plant a flag, take some rock samples and bring them back. Only one scientist went to the moon on Apollo 17, a geologist. But if you're going to really do the serious research on the moon, do the really serious work, you're going to have to take scientists to the moon, to stay on the moon, to do the research that they're good. You're going to have to take equipment with them. So to do in situ research, just like you do with field exercises when you go to Antarctica or in the deserts, you actually have to be there physically do it. And that's the only way to do the real research that you want to do. And that's what makes this important. We have the technology now to do this much better. And that's an important development as well, because we're seeing development of technologies that we need down here on Earth. And the space program is able to produce very good technologies that we really need.
Why, though, not land Archimedes on the moon? Why is it to go around the moon and come back?
Artemis, yes. Artemis, yes, right, the sister of Apollo. Well, this is a step-by-step process. That's what we're doing. And same with Apollo in the 1960s, Apollo 8, this is essentially the equivalent of the Apollo 8 mission, although Apollo 8 did go into lunar orbit. This isn't planning to do that. It's a test mission, if anything else. First time the rocket, the SLS, will be launched with humans on board. That's quite a serious issue in itself to make sure it works. And then to put the Orion spacecraft, we have a nice model of it as well here. This Orion spacecraft then will not go into orbit about the moon, will do a great big loop around the moon on what's called a free return. The free return is a way of actually powering your spacecraft. To leave the Earth generally, gravitationally, it's 25,000 miles per hour. If you do that slightly less, 24,750, then you won't fly past the moon. Moon's gravity will grab you, throw you around in a circle, and throw you back towards the Earth. So it's a safe system in order to bring you back. Apollo 13 used a very similar system for safety, and that's what makes that quite a useful system. So they're doing that in order, as a 10-day mission, to test everything out on the spacecraft, to make sure it fully works, make sure that things are fully operational. And if all goes well with this and it becomes becomes a full operational thing. Their plan is, and the budget is there now at last, from the great beautiful bill, did actually put money into it, for the Gateway space station to orbit the moon. And initially the plan will be eventually for spacecraft like Orion to dock with the lunar orbiting space station, and then for astronauts to leave the space station and drop down to the moon and back again. Although initially it seems that the lunar landing for Artemis 3 will be something a little bit more, what we say, brutal than that, by mounting a lander onto a spacecraft, probably a big booster, and firing them towards the moon in order to get humans back onto the surface of the moon, in particular Americans before the Chinese, who plan to do it about 2030.
A lot of people who are listening to us right now might go, well, look, if we landed on the moon 50 odd years ago, first of all, why has it taken so long? And why is it so complicated? We've already done it. Surely we just copy what we did and we can do it again. No?
No. The technology that we used in the 1960s was really pushing it. All the astronauts accepted they had a 50-50 chance of making it. It was very close to the mark, actually. The computer systems were just not really... They were up to it because they did, but it was a very close call. Richard Nixon cancelled the program in the 1970s for actually good reason, because he pointed out, now, okay, he said, now you've gone to the moon these number of times, what's your plan? What's your roadmap? And they went, oh, we haven't one. We're just going to go back, grab a few more samples. No. We need a proper plan if we're going to there. And we need to build up experience in space. And that experience is going to be done in Earth orbit. So we did Earth orbital work, which is what he put the groundwork for, which was really, really good thing to do. And develop technologies which are much better technologies for doing the work. And therefore that's what we need now. And we've got those technologies now, better computer power, better systems. We're also going to land in a different part of the moon, which really wouldn't have been possible to do with Apollo age technology, because we're going to land in the South Polar region where there's access to water. And therefore you're going to be able to use the water to actually operate a lunar base much more efficiently. Just landing in a plane is not going to be practical for actually survival.
What's the problem? What are the problems that Artemis 2 is suffering at the moment? It is to do with the hydrogen.
Yes,
it's quite a tricky fuel to use, isn't it? Why are they using it? Is there not something else they could use?
It's a good question. The SLS uses liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen in the same way that other spacecraft, other rockets have launched before. Hydrogen gives you and oxygen gives you the best bang for your weight. It's a fantastic power source. Hydrogen should be used anyway. I mean, I'm a bit biased here because I wrote a book on hydrogen that should be used for power systems on the Earth anyway. But in this particular case, instead of a gaseous, it's used as a liquid, and that's the best way to use it for rockets is liquid fuel, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen. That means it's in tanks which are aluminium copper alloy tanks at 3,000 psi, so the very high pressure. The hydrogen's at minus 253 degrees centigrade, the oxygen at minus 183 degrees centigrade. And that temperature is just so low, actually causes the rocket to actually shrink by 6 inches.
Oh, wow.
And to actually fuel with this is actually quite a tricky operation. Although America have lots of experience of hydrogen fueling systems. They've had them since the 1950s for a variety of rockets, but this is a big system. And they've had some problems. And the big problem is with the connector which goes into it, and that's where the leakage is happening. Hydrogen, of course, this is H2, so it's a molecule of hydrogen, 2 hydrogen atoms together. H2 is what they use. But that is the smallest molecule in the universe, and that will actually permeate through material. So you've really got to have rather remarkable seals to do it. So it's actually quite a hard exercise to do. And they've been having some problems. They had some problems when they first tested this launcher system in 2022, and they had loads of corrections to put into place, and they're now having these problems again. And they thought they'd actually solve the problem, interestingly enough, during this fueling system, but then it started again. So you've obviously got some sort of systematic issue, whether it's caused by back pressure problems, forward pressure problems, which is causing the seals, and of course the seals are operating in low temperatures as well, which doesn't help. Interesting enough, I was at a hydrogen conference last year, and it was interesting. I was talking to a British company, and they make the best hydrogen seals and gaskets in the world, and they were trying to obviously sell them, point out to the government that we can use hydrogen for fuel, for instead of using heat pumps and things like that, we could actually use hydrogen through an existing system. And they'd actually already produced very high quality seals. But that is a difficult thing to accomplish. But hydrogen gives you the best really ratio for power. Elon Musk, for instance, uses methane. He uses liquid methane and liquid oxygen. One of the other issues he likes to use that for is because he's got a lot of stainless steel used with his rocket, and you can have hydrogen reacts with stainless steel, causes a corrosion issue. So that's one. And as he's got reusable things, he wants to mitigate that. So he uses liquid methane instead. So it's just a question of how you want to use your system. But as this is a throwaway rocket, it's expendable, then liquid oxygen is a very good system to use, although it is actually in an aluminium fuel tank, which does not react with hydrogen at all.
Wow. I mean, look, when they hopefully they'll get going in March, Andy, and I'll probably talk to you again then. Andy Lowndes, space expert there. It's the first time as well that there'll be a man of colour and a woman going up into space as well. So that's a pretty exciting stuff. Right, stay where you are, because Claire Muldoon is next with the papers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And of course, at midnight, it is your chance to talk back. And what I want you to talk to me about is these Epstein files. And of course, it was interesting talking to Ethan earlier, wasn't it? The lawyer from Los Angeles. And he was talking about how it's not front page news in America. They're trying not to talk about it at all. You know, the news organisations are not talking about this latest tranche. I can tell you for absolutely free that we are talking about it on every single front page that I've just seen. There may be one or two that don't have it. I don't think there are. It is all about the Epstein files, and it is all about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Peter Mandelson. And that's what I want to ask you about, is even... Oh, the Star. Oh, no, even the Star does. There you go. I mean, everybody, all of them. And they've got that horrible picture of Mandy in his pants again. But that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. Is it time that we forced Andrew and this other creature, Peter, to go and testify? Should they be forced to testify? Because look, even if they've done nothing wrong, right? They both. Mandy says it's because he was gay, he didn't know what was going on Epstein's Island even though he was on there, but we already know he's being investigated now by police for other wrongdoing, a potential wrongdoing that he can't remember ever doing. So the police are now investigating the chances that he may have given secrets away, economic secrets away, to Epstein, who could have passed them on to other people, sensitive information. And then he was made, of course, the top diplomatic job, even though he was a parliamentarian, as the top diplomat in the world in America, ambassador. And then you've got Andrew, who claims that he didn't do anything wrong either. He didn't do anything wrong, but he was hanging around Epstein. They both were. Are you telling me they didn't know anything? I mean, and even if they say, I promise you I didn't know what was going on, you will have seen other people there. You could say, well, I definitely saw Bill Clinton. I definitely, you know, Bill Clinton is now going to go to Congress and answer questions. This is the most disgusting group of people, led by Epstein. We believe that he was the ringleader, aided by Ghislaine Maxwell, who's serving time in a very cosy prison at the moment, to traffic women, girls, and now boys to be used and abused as sex objects. And not just that. Not just that. It gets worse even than that. It is so depraved, it is so disgusting. And if you believe for 1 minute that only Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were guilty of anything, then you're in cloud cuckoo land. There are people responsible for some of the most heinous crimes that one human being can do to another human being who are not getting prosecuted. They're not even getting named. These rich, powerful people in governments, in Hollywood, in the UK, all around the world, in Israel, these amazingly powerful, rich people are getting away with it. They've got away with it. Who knows, they may even still be doing it today because their egos and their arrogance and their absolute belief that nothing will happen to them will make them think they're allowed to continue doing what they've already done. I don't care who they are. I don't care if there's somebody that I admire greatly. I don't care what politics they have. I don't care anything about them. If they have harmed women and children, they need to face justice. And if any of the people who are named know anything, do you think they should be compelled, forced to say? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. I really want to hear from you on this. And what impact? This is not going to stop now, I don't think. Could this destroy Keir Starmer? Could it destroy the royal family? Could it destroy Donald Trump? Could it destroy the Republican Party? Could it destroy the Democrats? What could it destroy? And maybe that's why nobody's keen on taking any responsibility for it. Nobody, I fear, is going to pay for this. Give me a call. Let me know what you think. Joining me now to discuss this and the papers is Muldoon. Claire Muldoon.
Hi, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks.
Good. I don't know if I know you're across this because you're like me. You're into all this, but the depravity is even worse than we ever imagined. Even when that depravity is raping children, it goes deeper than that and worse than that. Stuff that I can't even talk about. Is it time that we force people to go to Congress and answer to this?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. So Mandelson clearly will have a lot of time in his hand now that he's not a Lord anymore. He won't have to sit in the Lords at £350 a day, which he hasn't been doing because he took a leave of absence throughout all of this. And indeed, he's no longer the UK ambassador for the USA. So again, he's jobless in that sense as well. So he's got plenty of time to be summoned to Congress to give evidence, as is Bill Clinton actually doing. But moreover, the Met is now being involved because of his alleged insider dealing, insider trading, because that's in effect what he was doing, manipulating the markets at the banking crisis and trying to ease out the Prime Minister at the time was Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and his Secretary of State for Finance, his Financial Secretary was Alistair Darling at the time. And, you know, Brown is apoplectic with rage, and back in 2025 he wrote, you know, to the Commons to say, look, this is not right, this is, please investigate what happened here. And do you know who is boldly silent through all of this? Tony Blair and Alistair Campbell. Where are they to stick their 2 pence in? Where is Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell's podcast now about what's going on at the moment? Deathly silent. And indeed, even the royal family, I would say that I would find it difficult for them to try and claw back any form of public support now. And I would actually urge the King and the rest of the royal family to perhaps take a step back and to perhaps be someone more like a statesman than a monarchy in this country, because we're being led by donkeys, we're being treated by like as if we're donkeys, and we are just, I just cannot believe the state of this country. I cannot believe the disarmament of Keir Starmer throughout all of this. He has just, he's 14 U-turns, right, in as many months as since he's been the UK Prime Minister. He has got people around him, Bridget Phillipson. He's gone through 2 transport secretaries, Rachel Reeves, for heaven's sake, Angela Rayner, notwithstanding the fact that he's been, you know, people have tried to take his job from him. Andy Burnham, West Streeting, we're told, might be in the frame. Angela Rayner, we know, has got the backing of not only the backbenches but the whole of the unions as well. So he has lacked in leadership, he's lacked in skill. We see that evidenced by the fact he gave Mandelson that job. And I remember talking to you about it. Yeah. I remember talking to you about it at the time, and I said, I can't believe he's done that. I can't believe he's brought Mandelson back into the fold, the Prince of Darkness, by his own admission, from his autobiography.
Yeah.
Back in 2006 or something like that came out.
And it wasn't like Keir Starmer wasn't warned either, apparently. The MI5 did say to him, look, we don't recommend this appointment because there are because of his dealings with a paedophile. Do you know who
the lead is? The link between the two of them, of course, is Morgan McSweeney.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, the Epstein list. I mean, just looking at the state of what's happening with that as a whole.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, it is deeply concerning that these incredibly wealthy, incredibly powerful men always protect each other. They always have throughout history. They always will. And we know of behaviours in history from other rich, powerful men that is abhorrent. Will they always get away with it? I mean, that's the thing that I just think.
Well, that's up to society. That's up to us to, enable them, as Ghislaine Maxwell did, and I'm sure there was a few others. So it's really up to us. We need to have the moral compass. We need to have the moral fibre to call out what is wrong in society and what is wrong in behaviour. Well, we're not part of that, thank God. But, if people... Look at the surgeon in Great Ormond Street, for instance, right, who butchered children, basically, right? The whistleblower was ousted out. The whistleblower's whistleblower, or whatever, was framed. It seems to me that you just cannot try to do anything good. You cannot try to do the best without people in authority, without people in power covering up for people.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that. I don't know how.
But
to
you've had for years now victims of this hellhole that Epstein created, reporting to police. They weren't even followed up. They're not believing people. They don't want to believe the women. They don't, but if it's a man who says something, people do listen. They're not listening to these women,
to the victims, the female victims. That's the problem. But when Keir Starmer was head of the CPS, rape convictions went down.
Yeah. But they didn't hear. Remember the rape gangs here? They weren't listening to the girls. The girls would go to the cops and say, "Look, this is what's happening to me," and they were going, "Yeah, go away." I mean, the whole thing. I don't know what it takes.
Maggie Oliver, of course, ex-police officer, she tried to blow the whistle and everything. Yeah. She was sidestepped. She was told, "No, it's not happening. We'll just cut. It's being covered up."
What else needs to happen with these? I mean, we've only seen half of the Epstein files. The Todd Blanche, now the Deputy Attorney General, has said that's it. There's no sign. There's nothing in those files that leads to anybody being questioned or prosecuted, which I find incredibly difficult to believe.
I think people like Melinda Gates. She was on a podcast. I think US time, our day today. Right, it's just came out. And the question was posed to her about Bill Gates' alleged contracting of an STD.
Yeah.
And it's alleged that he wanted to procure some antibiotics and give them to her surreptitiously so she wouldn't contract the STD from him that allegedly he got from a Russian prostitute or some prostitute from somewhere. Again, I'd say a victim.
Yeah,
I don't think prostitution is any choice for any woman. And if that is the case, then we might have to maybe examine why that is the choice. However, in this case, I don't think it was. I think it was a woman procured for the dirty of Epstein and his ire.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think we're going to get from family, from, again, victims' women. I mean, she's a victim, Melinda Gates. I think from that we can then get some semblance of a line of theory, a line of evidence to what was going on, because she kept repeating in the script, in the subtext it's so sad. I can't believe how sad it is. It's devastatingly sad. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I had to leave the foundation. That's tragic.
Yeah, and she cited his Gates's relationship with Epstein. And again, I have to say, just being in the files doesn't mean that you are guilty of any of the wrongdoing there. But we need to question the people who are in the files. This is what people keep saying. Well, they're not guilty of anything just because they're in the files, so we've redacted their names. But if they're in the files, then at least question them, right?
Yes.
At least ask them what they know and what they don't know. We're not saying you're guilty.
Absolutely.
We're just saying if you're in the files...
You might be a branch to information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might be able to provide just a little bit so that somebody pays for this. I
think something else I wanted to chat to you about was Sarah Ferguson.
Oh my God.
And, her remarks in one of these emails about her two daughters, or one of the daughters, having been away for a weekend, and she used a sexually explicit word for having sex gaily, but not gaily. I mean gaily in the true sense of the word. And as a mother of daughters, right, and a son, that is not language you would ever use in conducting a conversation about your children. And was this after his conviction in the early 2000s? Yes, it was even after the conviction. But I'm doing my couch to 5K, as you know. So this morning I was pounding the Thames with my mate that I'm doing it with at 6:30 in the morning. And I said to her, that is not language. That's this kind of language you would use between mates if you knew someone was having an affair. That's the kind of language that you would use for that. You do not discuss your children's private lives like that with a convicted bloody paedophile.
Well, exactly that. And why would you be flying your daughters 2 days after he gets out of jail, flying them to meet the convicted paedophile,
and then staying with them?
Would you take your daughters to a...
No, I wouldn't even go. But then listen, no. There was in the emails as well, oh, I found you a really slim-bodied woman, paraphrasing here. You'll love her. If you don't, why don't you then marry me and we'll employ her? Unhinged behaviour. That's not normal.
No, there's and she should be as well forced to appear in front of Congress. And this is what's really annoyed me about the redacting all the names. It is very simple to say, as we've just said, just because you're in the files, it doesn't. I mean, Donald Trump is in the files 5,176 times. There's no suggestion that he is guilty of taking part in what happened, but he should be facing Congress to answer questions. He will have known stuff. He knew him for 10 years. They were best buddies. Look, you're not telling me. This is how Jimmy Savile got away with it for so long. People knew and they didn't do anything. You know, this is the problem, is this wall of silence around these powerful people, these powerful men. And if you kept quiet, if you knew and you kept quiet, I'm sorry, you're still guilty. You are guilty.
You definitely are.
And we know that a lot of these little girls that were sexually abused that have come forward were part of these pageants that were being run by Donald Trump and his business partners. We know that was happening. And we don't know how those girls went from pageant to being abused, but some of them did. And Trump himself talking about going in and saying, oh, when you run the pageant, it means you can go in while they're undressing. All these beautiful young girls, they're children. You know, it's all unedifying. So even if you're not guilty of touching them or raping them or whatever it is you're concerned about, you will have information that can point to people who were.
Absolutely.
And they all need to be in court.
Are the branches to the trunk.
Yeah.
And then from the trunk down to the roots where it all happened.
Well, I think they all hoped that it would be over when Epstein died. And I think that there was more than hope behind that as well. I'm not convinced that it was far too convenient that it was a suicide.
Yeah,
far too, and that bit of film missing as well that they've never explained. Claire, we're going to take a quick break, but we will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie, and with me is Claire Muldoon. And just before we head to the papers, there's a little bit of breaking news I wanted to talk to you about, and that is a ban, a law banning the use of smartphones during the school day has been demanded by the House of Lords, by peers, in a government defeat amid calls to give youngsters their childhood back. The Tory-led move, backed by the Lords by 178 votes to 140 majority 38, comes after the upper chamber recently supported barring under-16s from social media with mounting concern on online harm. So the government were looking for schools to legislate on whether children should have phones, but this is looking at a law, the prohibition on use and possession of smartphones by pupils would cover all schools in England if it becomes law. Have the Lords overstepped here, or have they stepped in?
No. I actually think they've really helped out the schools here.
Me too.
Because I think, they've taken the responsibility away from the school they've escalated it to the law of the land, which I think will protect schools.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately it will protect pupils and staff, but pupils moreover, because they will be able to concentrate on their lessons in school with a blanket ban, knowing that it's against the law to actually have your phone in the school or in lessons. That's therefore going to protect their mental health. It'll protect their ability to learn and absorb information. It will also, Petrie, protect the staff who have to teach them, who have to deal with the fallout of being filmed whilst conducting lessons. Especially, we've seen rises in crime of a sexual nature, even against female members of staff, against them by male pupils in high schools. This shouldn't even be having a conversation for primary schools. And I hope it does go through in the upper chamber, because I think the Lords now, this is something that this two-tier system that we have in place actually is beneficial for the country. And I think it would, as I said, it would protect the schools, it would protect pupils, and I think it's a really good law to bring in.
Yeah, and like you said, it protects the schools, but also parents who are probably worried about the level of phone use that their children have during school hours.
Well, that's up to the parents, as you know. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but the parents, weaker parents will be able to say, well, it's against the law, so you can't take your phone in. Yeah. And so it will help parents as well.
Do you know what it'll also do? It'll also, disable thefts of mobile phones and muggings of children. Because if the country knows, if everyone knows that they're not allowed to bring, or I would actually go one step further and say they wouldn't be allowed to take their phones to school. And I think that would be much better. Much, much better.
There'll be a lot of people who say, yeah, but I need to know where my kid is going to and from school. No, well,
you don't. You trust them to and from school. No, don't give me that rubbish.
Yeah, no, because I'm from the same book as you in terms of parenting. But we didn't, I mean, I never would have done that anyway, even if I could have done with that whole tracking thing. But that's, I mean, sometimes the two, this is the Lords being tougher than the government was planning to be, and I do think that a lot of people will support that. So that's the school smartphone ban, complete ban, a law saying that children shouldn't be taking phones into school. It will cover, if it becomes a law, I can't say that word, prohibition on use and possession of smartphones by
You're
pupils.
Talking about 1920s America there, with the prohibition of alcohol.
Yeah, that didn't work, did it? No. But anyway, this will. So that's a good thing. It will cover all schools in England if it becomes law. So there you go. That was a little bit of breaking news for you. Right, let's have a look now at the papers. The Sun newspaper, I mean, as I was saying, interesting that Americans aren't, the news outlets are not covering this, but British outlets are covering. Every single one is covering this. Disgrace of Epstein pals. This is the Sun. Princes of Darkness.
Yeah.
Disgraced Andrew Mountbatten Windsor got the boot from Royal Lodge under cover of darkness as Jeffrey Epstein scandal escalated. I mean, there's more to come apparently with Andy as well.
Really?
There's more to come. More embarrassment, more photographs, more to come. Who's taking all these photographs, by the way? I mean, who walked into that? Now it's been discovered that was Epstein's Paris apartment. You know, the picture of
him on all fours.
No, that's the one with Mandy with his pants, his white
Oh,
nappy
don't. I'd managed to forget about that.
Because he said, I can't remember where that was taken. I don't even know if it was taken anywhere near Epstein. It was actually taken in Epstein's Paris flat. They've managed, somebody clever has managed to sort it out.
Let's just remember a few years ago when the first picture of Victoria Giuffre came out with Ghislaine Maxwell and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He denied that and actually made allegations that it might have been doctored or something like that, you know. And we look back on that now and we can see, we know he was lying.
Yep.
Because he was there. That picture was taken.
It's been verified.
It's been validated and verified. And that was what, 5 years ago or something. And look at what's happening now. It's beyond comprehension, and it's the arrogance of these people, Petrie.
That's what
it's the arrogance of this man to either think that, you know, it would never come back to harm him, or worse, he'd never believed he'd done anything wrong.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think, and also saying, well, I can't remember. I think that's probably true.
And you know the other horrible thing. You know, there's a lot of online about secret meanings for a hot dog with no bun, and pizza and something like that. Actually,
and whoops.
I laughed to myself when he was giving reminding myself of the Emily Maitlis interview when he was in Pizza Express.
Yeah, all these code words that they use. I fancy a pizza tonight. It's like,
oh yeah, listen. He told Emily Maitlis then he doesn't sweat. I bet he's sweating now.
Yeah, well, I do you think that the king has to compel? Will it do any good for the royal family if he was made to appear? If Andrew was made to appear in Congress, even if it was only over Zoom?
I don't care about the royal family at this point, to be honest with you. I really, really don't. They're not victims in this.
No,
they're really not. And don't forget, the Queen gave Andrew 12 million?
12 million, yeah, to pay off
before it came to this the civil court. So I'm sorry, I have got no sympathy at all with the royal family, with that firm. And I think they really, and I was pleased that Prince Edward came out in the first in Dubai, and he was one of the only first royal to make comment on it. And he said that the victims have to be remembered in this.
Yeah, it's all about the victims.
It's all about the victims.
I mean, that latest photograph of Andrew
and we have to
floor.
say that Andrew's still denying it.
Yeah, I mean, these all of this could be completely innocent. But
it's my view that I don't really think that they are.
Well, it's my view that even if you just know a little bit, then you should, or if you've got nothing, you know, if go to Congress, and if you're not going to go to Congress, why?
Yeah. Now,
why are you not?
At the top of your show, we discussed this. I mean, I think, as you know, as you've said, also it's in every single front page of every single paper. But the Met Police being called in, right, from Anderson, the Met Police might still be called in because of the allegations of the young women being brought over to this country.
Because that would equal being trafficked.
Yes.
So even if she was 26,
doesn't matter.
The fact that she was brought to him via an aircraft and procured for sex, then she is a trafficked young woman.
Whether it be in Windsor Lodge or whether it be in Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
All state-owned, actually, homes. So the Met might have to investigate him criminally as well.
Well, I mean, look, at least the he's not a prince anymore. But it's for me, it's not enough. There needs to be, you know, get yourself exonerated. Go to Congress, answer their questions, set boundaries like the Clintons have done. You know, negotiate the terms of giving this information. But do it. They've even said he can do it via Zoom. He doesn't even have to go to the US. He can do it by a Zoom call. And I think if you want to prove your innocence, if you want to prove that you care about the victims, then that's what you do. And Mandelson saying, you know, I shouldn't have believed Epstein after his conviction. I mean, he was even advising Epstein how to overturn the conviction or how to get. I mean, after he'd been found guilty,
known as the Duke.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Andy's the Duke. Yeah, absolutely. But it's you know stuff. Just talk about it. Go and tell Congress. Mandy should have to appear as well.
Oh,
it's absolutely insane to me that they can just say, well, we don't know anything.
Oh, but Mandelson as well in that interview, he was given such an easy time of it. And he made his sexuality the reason of his belief that he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Oh, as a homosexual man, what? And your husband was getting $4,000 a month from Epstein, and you can't remember that?
Yeah.
And you also said that you've got no recollection of a place in Brazil. And there was a flat in Brazil.
Because he's got away with it for years, hasn't he? I mean, they all have. And that's the point.
He was enabled at the start by Tony Blair, don't forget.
Yeah.
And Alistair Campbell.
Well, they all enable each other, don't they? Which is why it's very difficult for us to get in there and get them to actually appear in court and stand, you know, at least give evidence, if not stand trial for wrongdoing. Let's take a quick break, Claire. We'll come back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you, and with me is Claire Muldoon.
Yes!
Yay! Another bit of breaking news I want to discuss with you.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
What's happening tonight? All this breaking news.
It's all happening. This is hilarious. You're going to absolutely love this. This is Politics UK tweeting, saying, new, Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman accidentally voted with Labour to abolish the two-child benefit cap tonight after entering the wrong lobby. Beth Rigby then says, they tried to leave at one point but got trapped as the doors were locked. A source tells me they got on their phones trying to get instructions from Farage as to whether they should be there or not. Reform source confirmed this happened and said it was a genuine mistake.
Well, of course, that was Reform policy for a while before Labour adopted it, and then Reform dropped it.
Yeah. So the new kids went into the wrong lobby.
So those two children were trapped.
Were trapped. and had to vote with Labour. It says the votes were recorded. I mean, Reform is saying that no votes were recorded. It's easy to find out. You just go onto they work for you. But yeah, it's been pointed out to me that because they went through the lobby, the votes recorded. The record on the House of Commons vote here. So Jenrick and Braverman voted with Labour. Braverman voted with Labour to lift the 2 benefit cap. And can you imagine the panic? Then phoning Nigel Farage, going, "Oh no, we've done the wrong thing."
Not very brave. That Braverman, was it? That
is hilarious. I just love the thought of those two in the wrong chamber, casting the wrong vote against their new party Reform. Brilliant. They must have looked. It must have been brilliant. I wish I was there. That didn't make the papers, but I'm telling you, it will. That's a good story. That's an amazing story. All the diarists will be out with that. Let's have a look at the Times. Mandelson facing full criminal investigation with a rather bizarre photograph.
So the Times have got the same picture as the Telegraph. Interestingly, tonight they've for tomorrow they've kept the same picture. But let's not forget some good news, hopefully, on the same paper there about the NHS cancer plans. Expect to save 75% of sufferers. This is the new Wes Streeting plans to help cancer sufferers in the NHS. And by all intents and purposes, it's going to be quite a good rollout if it happens, because he mentions a friend of his that diagnosis took, I think, 120 days, which is just extraordinary.
Yeah.
And it was too late, and his friend died of bowel cancer. We know that there are many tests out there, and we've spoken about it ad nauseum about getting tested. And obviously, it's easier to get a diagnosis sooner and deal with the cancer sooner rather than later. But at least Wes Streeting, who is a cancer survivor himself, is actually trying to do something to help people. Yeah. He's the only man in that government that I think actually is, and his worth is salt. There's also talk about cancer sufferers being able to get travel reimbursement to get care.
Yeah, and I saw that today.
You think, why on earth would that not actually be in place in the first place?
Yeah, because a lot of cancer sufferers are not able to work, and they need to go for these tests, and they need to go for radiation therapy or chemotherapy or all sorts of things. But this is what's very exciting about the cancers at the moment is this will become a disease that people live with rather than die from, and we are achingly close to that. And my mind always goes back to my best mate who died of cancer, and I keep thinking that if only he'd got it now, his chances of survival would have been 100 times
but the
better.
truth is we don't know, and the other thing is that I firmly believe there must have been a cure for cancer before now, because if they could roll out the COVID vaccine so soon after they
already had COVID is a cold, so they already had that. They already had the skeleton of it.
They've got all these they've got vaccinations for everything. They've got cures for things, I'm sure, and the amount of money that has been raised for cancer awareness and cancer treatment. Anyway, so I thought that was a bit of good news.
That is really, really good news. The Daily Telegraph again going with quite a bizarre photograph of Mandelson sitting there having his sock put
massaged. On. Yeah, it was a really weird sock.
By a woman.
Does he have ski tights on below those trousers?
It's very strange. It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Very odd. Who takes... I'll go back to that question. Who's taking these photographs? I mean, who's wandering around with a Polaroid? Because it must have just been a click. It wasn't like surreptitious. They didn't have phones on there.
No, he's smiling in there. He's actually looking at the camera.
So who's going around taking these really odd photographs, like that one of him in his underpants? Who decided that was I don't know, it's very strange. So the Telegraph again, Brown accuses number 10 of cover-up. Former PM goes to war with the government over Mandy's leaked emails to Epstein. So this is all going to be coming out, isn't it? And get Gordon gone. Epstein and Mandelson's plot to oust a Prime Minister. Yeah, it's not going to go well for Peter Mandelson, and I wouldn't be surprised if he if he lost everything over all of this, I can say.
Good.
So, OK, let's move on. The Daily Mail. What motivated Sarah Ferguson to take her young daughters to visit a convicted paedophile? That's the rather marvellous Sarah Vine has written a piece on that, and that's exactly what we were saying. I mean, what? Why?
But it was paid for as well. So did you not see that?
Yeah,
email?
the tickets were paid for. She went business class, and they went
Kids
cattle.
went cattle.
Yeah. She got her ticket was $9,000, and theirs was $4,000 for two of them, wasn't it? And yeah, it was all paid for by Epstein and the return ticket. Why would you take your young daughters to visit a man who literally just days before got out of jail for being a paedophile? And so that's the top story there. That's an op-ed. But the Met sensationally launches a criminal probe into Mandelson, and Kemi piles the pressure on the PM. Evidence that damns Labour's Dark Lord. And it is difficult to see how Keir Starmer is going to also get away with this.
I just don't know how he's going to get away with it.
No.
I really, really don't.
No.
I really can't see it at all.
Yeah.
It's so bad and so bleak for him.
I mean, it really, and he didn't even sack him, right? I mean,
no, I know.
He gave him the respect
Benefit
to allow him to resign.
To resign.
And to resign the Labour Party. Why wasn't he kicked out of the Labour Party?
Yes.
He should have immediately been kicked out of the Labour Party.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And wasn't. Yeah. And he's been given the respect, Mandelson, to resign the Lords, the party, and the job. And that probably means he keeps all the pensions, because if you get fired, there's a question over pensions, isn't there? But
that's
if you resign, you get to keep all associated pensions.
That's why the police commissioner they let him go from Birmingham.
That's right, they let him resign.
On full pension.
Yeah, exactly that. Resign or retire. So that is also slimy to me, to gift somebody the right to resign and all the benefits that comes with.
Yeah, because obviously the service that he gave to this country wasn't really it was a disservice.
Yeah. So
why should he be remunerated and rewarded for that?
Exactly.
Insider trading, amongst other things that have been alleged.
Yeah. The Independent, a fantastic photograph there of Lord Mandelson in his ermine and his lordship robes. He let his country down. Madison quits Lords as government begins to strip him of his title. And they've got to update the process. Have you been reading about how you strip a Lord? And I'm not talking in a sense of Madam Whiplash, but I'm talking about how you strip a Lord of his titles. It's all down to World War One.
And remember, let's not forget that Keir Starmer actually wanted to abolish the Lords before he became PM.
Before he started giving people the places in the Lords. Yeah, they all do that. They all say that. And on the front page it says as well that Prince Edward is the first royal to speak out, saying remember the victims, and the Prime Minister gobsmacked. He would have seen an MI5 brief, and he must have done. He must have seen a brief.
Or Morgan McSweeney saw it and didn't pass it on. Didn't pass it on.
Daily Express goes with Edward. Edward's call to remember victims of evil Epstein, and him standing very uncomfortably beside Prince Andrew. I don't think we'll ever Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Sorry, I don't think we'll see him again, ever.
I don't want to see him again.
But he'll never be in public again.
I hope not.
Never. I mean, I don't think it matters what happens.
Do you know, it was bad enough at the steps of Westminster Cathedral at the late Duchess of Kent's funeral. And he was a big smile on his face trying to speak to Prince William.
And William had nothing to do with him.
Absolutely
he
nothing.
He put his hand over his mouth, didn't he, and said something to him.
Yeah. To be at such a state requiem mass, such a funeral, an austere occasion, and to try and make light about. I mean, who the hell did he think he is?
I just don't.
Seriously.
Seriously.
I just don't get it.
It's just wrong. It's that entitlement again. It's just that sense
and arrogance.
And arrogance. Right, we've got to take a break, but we'll be back in a sec.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie, and with me is Claire Muldoon, and we're going through the papers for tomorrow, and as we've said, every front page, every single one, even the FT, talking about the Epstein files, and the Mirror simply saying inexcusable. Did you see that interview that was carried out with Epstein recently? There's a clip of it. It was released in the latest tranche, where he was asked if he was the devil.
Yeah, that was Steve Bannon, was it not?
Yeah, they believe it was Steve Bannon asking the questions. They've discovered that. How creepy is he? He horrifies me. He absolutely he's like the worst kind of villain that you would have a nightmare about. I mean, you know, and I'm a tier 1 paedophile. It's like, and smiling about it. I mean, grotesque, right? Grotesque.
But you wonder what made him, because he was a finance guy, right? But there's lots of finance guys. What made him so special? What made him the special one? The special one, I think, because clearly he was just evil. I mean, clearly there was something absolutely, you know, criminally insane. I mean, there's so many claims that he was, you know, a Mossad agent, or he was working with the KGB. Well, they always wondered, even people back in the day when he sort of turned up at Wall Street, nobody knew who he was. He didn't come up through the ranks. So this is what I mean. Yeah. So there's now, in this latest tranche, it looks like that a lot of money came from Moscow. Yeah. And they wanted a compromat. And this man became the man that would get you anything you wanted. If you wanted to kill puppies, if you wanted to hurt children, if you wanted to make a snuff movie, if you wanted to, whatever depravity that you had, he was the provider of it. It was all filmed. That's why there were so many files. Whatever predilection you have. Yeah. Whatever, the fact that if you... So where did he get all the power from? That's what I want to know. From money. From money, from KGB, from whoever. I mean, there's you know, Mubarak and all of those people are named in these files that are so incredibly powerful. Again, not an indication of wrongdoing, but an indication of a syndicate of very powerful men that were in communication with each other from all corners of the world. What for? What for? What, you know, we need to know more. We have to know what was going on and what compromat is still out there. And if it was KGB or Mossad led, are people still having their strings pulled by those countries and by those organisations? And where are the parents of the victims? Exactly. What a lot of these girls were missing girls. Yeah, a lot of them were missing girls. And there's a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, called Sasha Riley. No, I haven't. Which I've listened to some heartbreaking and really quite horrifying tapes of him giving evidence, and it's just his word, right? But I don't disbelieve him. He's now gone into hiding while they try and back up what he's saying with evidence. But the way you can look at his files is to Google, don't worry, boys are more difficult to get hold of, and this is what he was told when. As he reports it, a girl was killed in front of him, one that he was forced as a child to have sex with. This is what he says. And he said, are you going to kill me next? And they said, no, don't worry, boys are more difficult to get hold of. And he claims that he was trafficked by his father, who was a pilot for Epstein. So there's an awful lot of information out there that is the most horrific thing that you can absolutely ever imagine. And he just tells it absolutely deadpan as you would. So why your previous guest, the lawyer in America, what was his reasoning to say that this just isn't being covered in the US press? Because people are being told not to cover it. I mean, there is power there. Really? Yeah. I mean, the Wall Street Journal
Well, the Wall Street Journal has been covering it. I mean, they do cover it.
The New York Times.
But there's all of this. Donald Trump is saying things like, well, all of this exonerates me completely. It's a Democrat problem. It's a Democrat hoax. And they're just not. They're just not talking about it. It's not. I mean, he was saying he turned on the television this morning to watch the news, and it just wasn't anywhere. It's just not being covered at all. And when you imagine, when I turned on the television this morning, it's absolutely everywhere, and everywhere. We're talking about it. Yeah. It is. We have proved possible to talk about it without getting yourself into legal difficulties. Yeah. It happened. Right, we know that this isn't just. This wasn't invented. Yeah. This is something that happened.
This is not fiction.
This is not fiction. So why aren't people trying to get to the bottom of it? And there's, of course, there's fear of being sued. There's fear of all sorts of things in America as well.
What's the temperature like in terms of your viewers at the moment? What are the calls saying? What is your feedback?
Well, they're really upset about it and think that people should be forced, that these two at least, and anybody else who has any information should be forced to do it. There's people commenting on that people get away with it, that, they're saying what we're saying.
See, that's interesting.
The frustration that we feel is what they feel.
Leading up to my point, this, I think, is the only story that I think across the board, across the parties, across us, across your viewers, your listeners, we are all in agreement of.
Because we're humankind, right? And we know that if this kind of thing happened, then it must be exposed. It must not be allowed to continue. And we're all sick and tired as well of these powerful people, these powerful, largely men, always getting away with it. Always getting away with it. If you're rich and powerful, what's to stop you? I mean, that's the question, really, isn't it? What's to stop you? And if we keep giving them that message, it's going to get worse. If we keep saying to these men, if you're rich enough and powerful enough, nothing's going to happen, mate. You do what you like. Do what you like to who you like. And you'll never, ever spend a day in jail for it.
Evil personified, it really is.
And we have a right to know who they are. And like I was saying, we have a right to know that if this was a KGB plot, or if they bought into it as a plot, why else would you keep 6 million documents if it wasn't for compromat?
I wanted to say...
Why else would you get rid of it, wouldn't you? You'd burn it.
My daughters and I were discussing this, and we said, how would you be so stupid to keep all this evidence?
Because you were using it as compromat.
My God, I mean...
There's no other reason. Why would you have 6 million pieces, more than 6 million pieces of evidence, if you weren't using it? If you see those horrible images of his house on the island as well, there's cameras in every single one of those rooms for security reasons. I mean, there's so much more to come. There's so much more. And if this tranche is bad, imagine what the 3 million pieces that we're not seeing look like.
Oh, don't.
It's time that people paid for this, or at least were questioned over it. I'm just going to very quickly say The Guardian, Met investigation into Mandelson, and then police to review fresh claims against Andrew. The Metro, oh Lord, Financial Times, Met launches criminal inquiry. The Star, you've let your pants down and you've let the country down. And
Oh, the Star have also, don't forget, you can win tickets to Benidorm in order for you to watch the Cheltenham races.
Okay, that's where I'd want to be to watch I wouldn't want to be in Cheltenham. Listen, Claire Muldoon, it's a pleasure as ever. Good luck on your run tomorrow, and thank you very much indeed for joining me. Claire Muldoon there, broadcaster. Coming up, it's just you and me, and we're going to be talking about these Epstein files.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, it is Talkback and it is Petrie here with you for the next hour. And look, you can't go anywhere at the moment, look at any newspaper or listen to any broadcast without the Epstein files. But it feels like we're late to the party though, because the Epstein files have been talked about for a very, very long time. But suddenly, because of Peter Mandelson and fresh allegations against Prince Andrew and the latest tranche of files that led to us learning about these two new things, has meant that the Epstein files have exploded. And there's more to come as people go through these files. And of course, at the moment, it's Andrew, formerly known as Prince, and Peter Mandelson. Now, both deny any wrongdoing, both deny even knowing anything about what Epstein was up to. Andrew seemed to be quite a close friend of Epstein, and so did Peter Mandelson. And I kind of sort of think I'd know if my friends were doing something outrageous. I kind of think I'd know. I might have a suspicion about it. Peter Mandelson has even spent time on the island, but he said that he doesn't know anything that went on the island because he's a gay man, and therefore wasn't privy to what was going on with these young girls and women. And that may well be true. There's nothing to suggest that Peter Mandelson was involved in any of the trafficking. But of course, there are documents now to suggest that Peter Mandelson was involved in letting Epstein have information that he was privy to, that Epstein shouldn't have been privy to. These are the new emails that have come out telling Epstein that there was going to be a bailout of the euro. Not that the British government was involved in that, but if you knew there was a bailout coming, a 500 billion euro bailout coming for Europe, you might have been able to hedge that in the financial markets. There's also, the very real possibility that Peter Mandelson was lobbying the Chancellor about bankers' bonuses. This was after the collapse of the banks, if you remember, and that they wanted to tax bankers' bonuses so that bankers weren't getting bonuses from taxpayers' money that was given to refloat the banks. Does that make sense? So when the taxpayer propped up the banks after the banks collapsed, the government wanted to stop that money going into bankers' bonuses. Right. So there's even suggestions that he was trying to change that rule on the behest of Epstein. So that's what the police are investigating Mandelson about. They're not investigating him at all of any impropriety with sex trafficking or anything like that. Prince Andrew, now there has been a new claim made that a young woman was flown across the pond to spend time, sexy time, with Prince Andrew, this latest allegation. And it apparently took place in a royal property, and the young woman was taken for tea and a tour of Buckingham Palace the following day. The problem with that is, even though the young woman appears to have been in her 20s, that would be a trafficked human being trafficked for Andrew. So that's the latest claim, and that's what they are now potentially looking into. Some of the papers say that the police are going to have a review to see if Andrew has anything to answer to. Meanwhile, he's been moved out of Royal Lodge early, and we don't know where he is. But do you believe that with all of this coming to light, all these cover-ups, all this subterfuge, sickens me to my stomach that these people just, the rich and powerful, get away with everything, absolutely everything. They can buy their way out of everything. And it's mutually assured destruction. Don't make any mistake about that. It is mutually assured destruction. I go down, I take you with me. And I cannot believe that Epstein didn't say that when he was arrested for a second time. I cannot believe that he didn't say to everybody, I go down, you go down with me. And then he killed himself. And Ghislaine Maxwell took the heat until Donald Trump's lawyer went to visit with her, and suddenly she's moved to a really soft jail. It stinks. And I'm sick of it. And I know, no matter how angry I am about it, I completely believe that nobody's going to pay for this. Nobody knows how many victims. There are stories about some victims being killed. Children, young women being killed for fun. The depravity is so much worse than you think it is. This wasn't a sex trafficking ring of children, for paedophiles. This was also much, much worse. Much worse, if you can think of anything worse. And no one's going to pay. They think, rough estimate, about 1,000 victims, but they can't possibly know how many. And the bravery of these women coming forward, you imagine the fear of that much power against you. That much power. I mean, even if we just melt that down and look at Jimmy Savile, those victims then, they were going to the police, they were complaining, but because Jimmy Savile was so, loved and adored and all of those things, the police loved him. He had friends in the police. Nobody listened. Nobody listened to those girls. No one. The sex trafficking rings in this country, that isn't even rich and powerful men that were perpetrating these acts against these girls. But they too were protected because the girls weren't listened to. They just thought, the police thought they were slappers, worthless, trash. So they didn't listen. And all of these young women that have come forward in the Epstein case, not listened to. For years, they've been going to the police. Years. Reporting things like seeing another child being killed. No investigation. Nothing. Not even question people. And we know that by looking back at the files about when these police complaints were made and seeing that they weren't followed up. Because these girls were not listened to. They weren't believed. And then the cabal, this evil cabal, locks around itself and protects each other. Story as old as time. Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back. And you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. Let's go first of all to Sheldon this morning. Good morning, Sheldon.
Good morning, Petrie. On a serious note, your summing up there was absolutely bang on.
Thank you.
Superb.
Thank you.
I have to start by saying that my stomach is as sick as yours. It took me some time, in fact, perhaps a couple of years to understand who Jeffrey Epstein was, because I didn't know a great deal about him. And I don't think most people in this country fully understood who he was anyway. Understanding he was a financier or whatever, what I do understand now was he's an absolute classic. He decided to discover how to get insider information to make sure that his regime, his financial regime, made more and more money, and decided that he was going to do that by understanding and befriending the people who are powerful in this world, outside of his circle originally, and find out what their peccadillos were.
Exactly.
Having understood their peccadillos, he did the classic. He provided them with the opportunity to fulfill it.
Well, and whatever that was, by the way.
Whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's all to do with paedophilia. It's to do with all sorts of definite obscenities. Now, having fulfilled this ambition and got them on his side, obviously he used that to create an opportunity to be able to blackmail them, because they could not obviously expose themselves or explain to the world that they had been trapped by this guy, because he honey trapped them.
Yeah, and this is what I keep saying about the amount of evidence that he kept, and all these odd photographs that were taken in compromising positions. It was all part of that whole thing. He wasn't just somebody who liked to scrapbook, right? He didn't want to have these photographs for memories. He had these photographs for a purpose, and this is where the KGB comes in, and where he suddenly appeared having all this money. There's so much to unpick in this, because if the KGB was behind this, if they were behind this, we need to know what other compromat they've got, and who on, and if they're pulling strings around the world.
Well, indeed, that could be the case, because at the end of the day, these powerful men, we have no idea how many of them there are.
No.
But we know some of them now, thank God, are never going to be taken to task. Because at the end of the day, whoever's in control of this country at the moment is not going to, or America, is not going to expose the rich and famous to the indignity of being honey trapped, because they have enough. They have enough baggage themselves, and they're going to cover it up. They're going to cover themselves, whatever happened. I believe that we only have the tip of the iceberg at the moment.
I agree. We literally are. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and they're doing everything they can to try and stop us digging deeper. Everything they can. This is obviously so bad that they're doing anything to cover it up.
I think the biggest problem we have here is a political one, because at the end of the day, his honey trap could be the result of bringing down governments.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And that's why it matters. It's not just a sex trafficking ring.
No, it's very important.
It's very important. We need to know who has the compromat and what it is and who on. And are these people being bent to the will of other people around the world because of that compromat? That's what we need to know. Yeah. And we've got to keep doing, not just that, but also for the victims, the potentially allegedly dead victims of this evil cabal. There's so much more to come on this, and we have these people. I just know they'll never pay, Sheldon. That's what makes me so cross.
No, they're not going to pay. I wonder, one of the biggest ironies I thought today was to have the Clintons being available to talk about people they know in this situation. The Clintons, of all people. I mean, for God's sake.
Well, I mean, they will. Maybe they'll spill the tea, because they will answer for any, relationship that they may have had or friendship that they may have had.
Plus, they'll open up. Yeah.
Plus, they'll give information, if they've got it, on other people. Because I cannot believe that they all didn't know. How is it possible that nobody knew what was going on?
How can the most powerful people in the world not have a cabal of secrecy? It's impossible to believe.
Yeah. It's impossible to believe that people did not know what was going on, but that is always their argument. That is always what they say. Like Peter Mandelson, I was on the island, but I didn't know what was going on.
But Epstein himself must have been the ultimate Machiavellian.
He was, manipulator.
He knew exactly how to manipulate the rich.
Because he knew that there were things that even no matter how rich you are, there are things you can't buy, right? And he wanted to find out what it was they wanted that they couldn't buy, and then he sold it to them.
Yeah, of course he did, yeah. And they're things that nobody wants to understand or expose themselves to.
I mean, there was somebody explained to me once that if you're that rich, it's boring. So then you want things that...
Indeed.
Yeah, that are. Oh well, I can't buy that, so that's what I really want. I want to do that.
I'm so glad you've said that, because when you have the capacity to have everything that's available in this world, you're looking for something next because you're not excited anymore.
Exactly that. That's exactly what it is. That would explain this group of mainly men. There were some women, but there were women who were enablers. But this group of men, they were bored. They were bored.
Very bored.
They were bored of their wealth and their power, and they wanted to exert the ultimate power over the most vulnerable, and that gave them a kick.
Am I allowed to bring one name into this?
Probably not.
Okay.
Just in case. It depends what you're going to say. Tell me what you're going to say first.
I was going to mention Mr. Trump.
All right. Yeah, he's mentioned
over
5,000 times. Yeah.
Over 5,000 mentions of Mr. Trump.
Yeah.
In the so-called release file so far.
Yeah. And that doesn't include all the times that his name would have been redacted either.
Oh, exactly. All the redactions, yes. And the terrible redactions are all for the rich and famous and not for the victims.
Yeah.
The victims are exposed.
Absolutely. And that was the point of the redactions, that they were not meant to be exposed. They were meant to protect the victims. But they're not. They're protecting the cabal. And
they are.
I mean, and Trump, who insists he's done nothing wrong, go to Congress, answer questions, because you were best mates with Epstein for a long time. You knew something.
Well, there was one clip which we see repeatedly in the media of Trump talking to Epstein in this room when Trump didn't have blonde hair, but he was the proper Mr. Trump in a party, if you remember.
And he pulls that horrible face. Yeah.
And he's over-excitedly explaining to Mr. Epstein and pointing across the room at something that should be seen, and he was overawed by it. I'm sure it must have been another one of his peccadillos.
What the young women? They were young women there dancing, and he was doing that ooh face. Yeah. I think this is the footage here actually. Yeah, there he is doing that face and dancing and chatting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Overexcited.
I mean, it's all just gross. I mean, I just don't even know.
Gross.
It's so gross. But I fear, Sheldon, we'll never reach the bottom of that iceberg. Really, I do. Sheldon, lots of love to you and to Faith, of course. You take care. I've got to take a quick break, but I'll be back in just a moment.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good morning to you. This is Talk, and this is Talk Back, and you are doing exactly that as we are talking about the Epstein files, talking about the fact that the latest tranche, the 3 million documents that dropped, did reveal more about Peter Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and also potentially more about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the disgraced former prince who has been kicked out of Royal Lodge now. Goodness knows where he is at the moment. I don't think we'll see him for a while. But there's potential for the police to be looking into both of these men, one for handing over protected information about that is financially useful, that being Peter Mandelson, telling Epstein loads and loads of stuff that he had no right to tell him, and Andrew with the potential. There's a victim that's has now been discovered that suggests that she was flown to Andrew, in other words, trafficked. So the police are looking into that allegation as well. I have to say that both men, of course, deny any wrongdoing and deny any knowledge of any wrongdoing. Mandelson's excuse was that he didn't know what was going on the island that he was staying on because he's a gay man. So, which I don't know whether confirms that he did or not, because, you know, how would you know that exonerated you if you didn't know what was going on? I don't understand. Anyway, look, rich, powerful men get away with stuff. Always have. Always have. Always will. Unless we make them scared. Unless we make them understand that there are more of us than them, and we will put pressure on them, and we will find out what's going on. There are probably millions of people far smarter than I am going through those files right now. Like that photograph of Mandy in his underpants. He said he didn't even know whether that was anything to do with Epstein. Well, somebody else, like I said, has discovered with photographic evidence that that was actually Epstein's Paris flat. And you can't remember being there? You don't remember being there? There's all sorts of memory loss with Mandelson. Can't remember getting any money from Epstein. Can't remember anything. Can't remember having that sort of, you know, email conversation with him. But Epstein kept all the evidence. Millions and millions of pieces of evidence. It doesn't look like he destroyed anything. There are still 3 million documents yet to be released, although Todd Blanche, the US Deputy Attorney General, has said that's it. They've done their job. And Donald Trump has suggested that the DOJ should no longer be dealing with Epstein, that it was a Democrat problem. Meanwhile, Congress are holding an inquiry and the Clintons have agreed to be questioned. So this may be a crack in the dam. This may be the beginning of the exposure of these men. And the documents that were just released as well, carefully redacted, all the names of the men that were involved, but didn't carefully redact all the names of the victims. Some victims who'd never come forward, some victims who had never been public about it, have now been exposed. And they're getting death threats, they're fearing for their lives, because as victims, they're witnesses. And that would be a pretty scary place to be if you imagine that the world's most powerful men don't want you to speak. So they weren't protected by the DOJ, but the men were. Oh, well, absolutely all of them. Every single one. was redacted. Lenny is in Ashford. Hello, Lenny.
Good morning to you, Petrie.
How are you, Lenny? I haven't spoken to you for ages.
I know. Well, I'm tickety-boo, thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, and like always, I've got a different way of looking at it, so
Yeah.
I think we can have a nice, friendly debate.
Of course.
Well, I think the three of them, like, counting Starmer in with it, they've got no defence.
Mm.
And, I mean, if you say, like, Andrew is not going to go to America because he was brought up, never complain, never explain. And the one time he got in front of he was cross-examined, and he made himself look stupid.
Absolutely. Yeah, he blew it all out, didn't he?
He's not going to risk that again.
No.
Right? Now, Starmer, if you look at him, he's got no defence. Now, if you look at Starmer's history and how many times he's used the same thing, with Jimmy Savile, he never see the paperwork and he got away. With Al Fad, the owner of Harrods, he never see the paperwork. With when the Russian spy case all collapsed, there was, we never see the paperwork properly. And now he's saying he never see the paperwork from MI5. Well, there is no way in this world, don't matter who you are, to give someone a job, to have the job in America that
the biggest diplomatic job in the world, by the way, and the best. It's what
That's right.
all diplomats want. They all want that job.
There's not a file on that person, no matter who they are.
Yeah, of course there is.
There will be a file, and no one. And I think Starmer's attitude was, shoot the messenger. I don't want to hear the truth. All he wanted was his friend in that job.
Well, and also he knew that there was some form of relationship between Mandelson and Trump, and thought that that might help with Britain, but to not think about. Like you said, everybody would have a file on them. Any diplomat would have a file to make sure that they've paid their tax, they're squeaky clean, they've never murdered anybody, they would have been looked into really quite extensively. Before my brother became a nuclear submarine commander, we were all looked into. His family, his close family,
That's right.
because he was going on a nuclear submarine. So
Yeah.
there was, we were all vetted as well to make sure that we weren't,
Isn't it nice
Mossad
when we
agents.
both agree on something?
It's very unusual, Lenny.
I know it is.
But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that Andrew will want to go, but I think he absolutely should be made to, or at least do a Zoom. If he doesn't want to go there, at least be questioned. Or they've said they'll come over and question him in private.
Well, he'll go and hide. I'd say he hasn't. With Andrew, he's not capable of defending himself, and he knows it.
I don't think he's incredibly smart.
No, he is. Well, there was a story, and I think it was true. When he first went to university, his chauffeur, he went up to his chauffeur who took him there and was helping him unpack his bags. And he said, "Did you go to university?" He said, "No, sir, I did not." He said, "Why didn't you go to university?" He said, "I had the same qualifications as you." And really, the only reason Andrew got into university because who he was.
Yeah, of course. Of course. The reason that Donald Trump's so livid with Harvard is because Junior didn't get into Harvard. They refused him because he wasn't bright enough. But I mean, I suspect where he is, he got in because of the Trump name. I don't know. But yeah, look, these people, they don't live in the real world. That is the problem. They've never lived in the real world. You know, Andrew has never been questioned. He's never been sanctioned. He's never been told off. He's never not done something he wanted to do because he was a prince.
Well, he was the Queen's favourite. She had a thing, and with mothers, you know, they look at their children through different eyes than anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had that experience with my family.
Yeah.
And what it is, that you can't blame a mum for that. That is what is in a woman's makeup. And so she wouldn't have seen. Wouldn't want to see the true son that she had. She wanted to see the son that she believed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just grateful she's not around to see all of this nonsense now, and him stripped of his titles and you know, in disgrace and in, you know, being shunted off into exile. I'm so glad that she's not around to see that, or whether it would have happened had she still been around. I don't know, but I agree with you. I don't think Andrew will go to America, but I think he needs to answer some questions, and I think Mandelson should be forced to go as well.
Well, can I just say something to you? Mm-hmm. That I think the royal family knew what was going on a long time before it all came public. Because it's very, very simple. Andrew would have had security that would have been doing files on him. Who he was meeting, if anything happened, they would want to know what he was doing. And they've hushed it up and covered it up until it's got too late. And they should have stopped it when it first started to happen. That's only logic.
I think that's a reasonable guess, actually, because, you know, the timing of the titles being stripped and all of that as well, I would have imagined that there was a warning to the king that there was some more stuff to come, and you know, act now, because that did seem to be a little bit of brilliant timing. Far too good to have just been an accident, I think. But yeah, there must have been some knowledge of something, and I think I'm with you that it should have been dealt with perhaps a bit quicker by the royal family in order to save their own skin, because I think this has damaged them hugely. I really do. Lenny, lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. I've got to take a break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Right now on Talk, you're with me, Petrie, and we are talking about the Epstein files and really just how far this evil cabal spreads across the world. And of course, we're not immune to it either. There are 2 men. I suspect there could even be more, but of course, all the names have been redacted in the latest tranche of Epstein files that have been released by the DOJ in the US. And although the DOJ has been told it's 60 days late already with this tranche, there's 3 million more to come. 3 million more pieces. Imagine what's in them. But Todd Blanche, US Deputy Attorney General, has said, we've done what you asked us to do. No, we didn't ask you. Well, American courts told you had to release all of it, every single bit. And they're still fighting to get all of it released. I suspect they'll have no choice but to do it. But why we're talking about this is because the Clintons are now going to be speaking to Congress about giving evidence about what they knew about Epstein. And although it's run by the Republicans, there will be, and Trump said just yesterday evening, well, this is a Democrat problem, because of course they've left a lot of Democrat names. But it isn't. And this shouldn't be about party politics. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what your job is. If you were involved in this sort of depravity and this evil, you need to be exposed. I don't care who you are. And I think we all agree on that, right? This was more than a sex trafficking ring, but it was that. And we know it was that. And so far, the only people who've paid are Epstein himself and Ghislaine Maxwell. They didn't abuse 1,000 women by themselves. Not all of them, anyway. So, who else was involved? Well, if you listen to Todd Blanche, no one. He said there's no evidence there that's prosecutable. Nothing. And already we've seen enough. Why then if it's not prosecutable, why are you redacting so much of it? Right? If it's not at least worth a question or an investigation, why redact it? Why? If all these men are innocent, then why redact them? Let them prove their innocence. I don't think it's that difficult. And yet, are we ever going to find out? We will find out how badly and how far this went. I'm just not sure we'll find out who did it. We need to know, because they'll probably still be doing it. Gary said Andy and Mandelson should definitely be made an example of and be forced to attend the US inquiry. As for Mandelson excuse about being gay, I don't believe for 1 second that only young girls were being abused. I doubt we will ever find out to what extent this inquiry, this goes, how many victims and perpetrators were involved. I know it is tragic, and actually it wasn't only girls that were being abused, by the way, but boys were harder to get hold of, apparently, according to some of the documents and some of the testimony that has come out. Heather says Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed. There's no proof of actual blackmail that we've seen. There's proof of payments, but, you know, that was for pizza or hot dogs. Very expensive pizza as well. A lot of high-profile people into a sex ring for money. Ghislaine Maxwell learned this through her father, Robert Maxwell, who'd worked with KGB, MI5 and Mossad. Ghislaine Maxwell's secret connections with KGB and Mossad and MI5 meant that nobody knew about Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, there was definitely a lot of issues around Robert Maxwell, if you remember, and he suddenly turned up dead as well, because I think he knew too much. And where did his money go? And that's an interesting one, because John said, well, not his money, he stole it, of course. Epstein may have been the channel for Robert Maxwell's dodgy millions. That would explain why Ghislaine Maxwell never left his side. From John. I watched a documentary on Ghislaine Maxwell the other day. It's absolutely fascinating, the kind of upbringing she had and the relationship she had. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was an absolute brute. He was awful, terrible. I mean, really not, no, he was awful. I had loads and loads of kids, loads and loads of children. It's worth looking at it, actually. I can't remember where I saw it. Did I see it on Netflix? Anyways, on Ghislaine Maxwell's life. It's very, very, very telling. And Catherine said, regarding Epstein files and the lack of high-profile people coming forward, I think it's naive to think these people don't know of the underground world that consists of rings of lawyers, judges, politicians, etc., and the fear of being taken down like Epstein was. I'm not sure why everybody is so surprised, as this type of vulgarity has been around for centuries amongst royalty and the wealthy. Hopefully there'll be some justice for the victims. However, I don't wish to be too pessimistic. I love your show, Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, we know it's been going on as long as time, but it doesn't mean it needs to continue. There has to be a way to stop this. David has called from Belfast. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Petrie.
How are you doing this morning?
I think Epstein killed himself because he couldn't answer any questions. He just killed himself because he knew he did wrong, and that was it. Do
you think so? Because I don't know that Epstein. I mean, all these men have got a narcissistic, right, with egos. That he didn't believe for 1 minute that his mates wouldn't get him out of it. I believe that he didn't commit suicide. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but just looking at it logically, his kind of personality trait and all of his powerful friends, he'd already got away with it before, remember? He only got a year and a half for admitting to one offence against one girl when 36 victims came forward. And his mates got him through that in a cushy jail, right? So why would he not think that would happen again? Why would he not believe that his very powerful friends, who he had a lot of compromise on, wouldn't help him?
Well, I think he just got into that corner where he couldn't get out, and he just decided to top himself, basically.
Okay.
So, but I say the worst problem in the world is, guys go on stag nights, hen nights, or not stag nights, it's stag nights. They get a stripper, and somebody buys them a prostitute, and it goes on and goes on and goes on. And men are actually horrible. If they're paying for sex, then that's it over that night. And, I don't know.
It's not the same, though, is it? As a lot of these girls were children. I mean, they weren't even, some of them 12, 13, 14 years old.
That's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah. And these were old, rich, powerful men who could buy any kind of prostitute that they wanted, adult prostitute they wanted to, but couldn't get their hands on.
The sex traffickers are as bad as Epstein and everyone else, but as you go on a hen night anywhere in the UK, there'll be a stripper or they'll buy a prostitute for the night. I think that's ridiculous,
Yeah. I mean, there is an underbelly of sex, and there is, but I think buying a prostitute who is not vulnerable, not trafficked, not on drugs, and willingly is selling her body, because there are those that do willingly sell their body. I've spoken to and interviewed many of them. Then that's a different thing. That's a transactional agreement. There's no vulnerability there. There's no power play there. There is if that woman is trafficked. There is if that woman is on drugs or being forced into prostitution. And that's my objection.
I understand that. But I think as I've seen, he sucked a lot of people in to his...
Willing people. People who were willing. People who wanted to go on his island and partake of whatever it was he was offering.
And if he was involved with the Russians and being paid by the Russians to basically suck people in who are willing, it's madness,
Yeah. I mean, this goes wider and deeper than really we have any understanding of at the moment. And if it is Russia, or if it was Israel under Mossad and the KGB in Russia, if they had anything to do with this, then we need to know who they're controlling, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah,
because if you've got photographs of somebody doing something or video of somebody doing something and you're saying, right, we want you to crash your economy, or we want you to, whatever it is, and I'm not mentioning names and I'm not even suggesting names, but, we've seen some odd behaviour around the world recently and
involved in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to go off the subject, but how can the people coming on boats fine 4 or 5 grand? Is Russia paying them?
Again, who knows? And these are all things that we should know, because it is quite bizarre, isn't it, that it is so expensive to travel across, and yet enough people manage to get that sort of money together. I agree with you. There could very well be somebody trying to destabilise the UK by supplying these people with money. I agree. Look, but we need to know these things, and we can't just sort of turn a blind eye anymore to the interference from around the world. And who's letting it happen, and why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
have they got compromat on them? What's going on? How is this happening?
Going back to Epstein, if Russia was involved and paying for all his activities, that should be found out. Yeah.
I completely agree. That's what we need to discover, because otherwise we've got puppets in power who are having their strings pulled by other people. David, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. I've got to take a break, but I'll be back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and this is Talk Back, and it is until the top of the hour. And we're talking about the Epstein files, as the latest tranche of 3 million documents has revealed more information about Peter Mandelson's relationship with Epstein, and some more information, potential information, on Prince Andrew. Certainly some rather unfortunate photographs of Prince Andrew, where he's kneeling over a young woman who's lying prostrate on the floor. No, I have to say again, there is no evidence of any wrongdoing. Just being in the Epstein files does not make you guilty of anything, except perhaps a poor choice of friendship. But do they know more than their involvement? Should they be compelled to sit in front of Congress and answer questions? They might have seen something. They might have seen someone. They might know something they don't know they know until they're asked a question, right? Trying to be nice about it. We certainly know that Mandelson was on the Epstein Island. He says he didn't know what was going on the Epstein Island because he's a gay man. That's why he didn't know what was going on with the girls, presumably. But he didn't see anything. And like I said, there's no suggestion that he did anything wrong in terms of the trafficked girls, boys and women. But he didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, didn't hear any gossip, didn't know. He was great mates with Epstein. Great pals. He called him his best friend at one point, as did Donald Trump call Epstein his best friend at one point. I mean, Donald Trump says this is a Democrat problem, and he's now accusing Epstein of interfering in an election as well now, and saying how much he hates the man, and, you know, kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago and all of that, although there was a lunch invitation after Donald Trump said that he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. So, I don't know. There's more to this. We know there is. And there's more incredibly powerful men involved in this than we know, because their names have been carefully redacted from these files, whereas the victims, and they are victims, they were victims, it's not alleged victims, their names were left exposed in a lot of cases. In fact, they've just had to take court action to get those removed and further redacted. Girls who've never come forward, women who've never come forward. And it's a scary place, right? Because there are a lot of powerful men involved, and they don't want to be seen as witnesses against these men in case something happens to them. Anyway, let's go back to your calls now, and Anne is in Epsom. Hello, Anne. Good morning.
Hello, Petra. Nice to talk to you.
And to you.
Yeah, all it is, Petra, I thought it was very weird when Epstein was in jail, and they said, I think they said he hung himself, did they?
Yeah, he did. Yes, with a sheet or something. Yeah.
I wonder if that was true. And also the picture with Prince Andrew with his arm round the waist of that young blonde girl. Then a while after Epstein, they found her dead. And I just thought it's a bit of a coincidence.
Well, Virginia Giuffre, who was the young girl that at the time that Andrew denied knowing and said that was AI, that photograph had been faked, which I think has been proved that it was a real photograph, although there's lots of evidence out there that it was a real photograph. Yeah. She died recently by suicide because she'd had a car crash. She was living in Australia That's Virginia Giuffre. So she died just before her book came out, actually. She died, I think, in Australia of an act of suicide, and her family was saying that it's because she couldn't cope with it, with all the stuff. Yeah. But there have been young women that have gone missing. And some of them are presumed not to have survived their encounter. I'm very suspicious about the Epstein suicide because he was under 24-hour watch, and it just so happened that he managed to do it to himself without anybody seeing it. And also there's video footage that the DOJ itself released of a camera outside Epstein's door to prove that nobody went in or out of the cell. Therefore, he must have committed suicide. But there's about 30 seconds of that missing, and they've never explained it.
Yeah, there's more in this than meets the eye, I think.
Yeah, and I genuinely don't think that Epstein's personality type would have killed himself. He believed he was invulnerable, didn't he?
Yes.
I thought he was a god.
He wasn't the type to do that. I think he wasn't the type to kill himself, to be honest.
I think he thought his powerful circle of mates would get him out of it again.
Yeah.
I genuinely do. I mean, I've got no evidence, I've got no proof, except looking at, I'm a very factual person, and just looking at that video footage from outside the cell door, there is film missing that nobody has explained and cannot explain. They said it was something to do with the clocks. They said, oh no, the clocks are... But that's been disproved as well. And since then, it's gone very, very quiet. So I'm with you, Anne. I'm not convinced that was suicide.
It's terrible. It's so, it's got to be looked into more and more and more, because if there's been, young girls that have been killed, they can't let it drop.